Hello, friends, and welcome. My name is Renee, and I am excited to be back with you today as we continue celebrating National Poetry Month together. It is almost the end of April, which doesn't seem possible, but that means that in May I will be back sharing with you book recommendations that you can access on Libby. If you haven't been, I hope that you'll take a little bit of time today and download the app from your app store and plug in your library card number and check out the audiobooks and the ebooks that are accessible to you on there for free with your library card. I hope that you have had some time to do some reading this month, and I would love to know what you are reading and what you are enjoying in your daily life. I've been trying to work through my own to be read pile, and every time I get through a book, it seems like there's two more that just appear out of nowhere. So I hope you're getting some good reading done and just taking care of yourself in whatever way you can. Today's poet that I'm sharing with you is another one of my favorites, which I'm sure you're not shocked by, but I'm sharing with you about the great William Stafford. I'm reading from his collection today, The Darkness Around Us is Deep, and it's selected poems by William Stafford. And he was born in 1914 in Kansas. He was a conscious objector during World War II, and so throughout his work and his poems, you will see him where he is exploring these different themes of war and peace and about his decision not to fight. And that's something that I wasn't aware of about his work until I actually started researching to tell you about it. So that was something really cool to learn about. I knew that there was a lot of violence and war imagery and poetry in his collection that I had read, but it didn't quite know why. So that was really cool to learn about. He continued to stay in the Midwest as he did his schooling. He earned a master's from the University of Kansas in 1947. He then taught at various universities after earning his PhD from the University of Iowa. Something I really love about William Stafford is that he got his start late in life. We often hear about these wonderkins who are publishing poetry and publishing novels in their early 20s, and William Stafford was actually 46 when his first major collection of poetry was published, and it ended up winning the 1963 National Book Award for poetry. So just a reminder that if you have a novel on your shelf that you haven't finished yet, now is a great time to be working on that, or that it's never too late to become a concert pianist and virtuoso. So that's something that I really love and appreciate about him and about his poetry, that when I'm reading it, I always have to remind myself that, our dreams are realized later in life sometimes. He was a close friend and a collaborator with Robert Bly, and actually on the collection that I'm reading from today, you can see that it was edited and has an introduction by Robert Bly, so that's really great. And he was just a prolific poet. He published some 57 volumes of poetry throughout his life. In 1970, he was named a consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress, and that position is now what we would call the Poet Laureate. And upon his death in 1993, his daughter, Kim Stafford, ended up gifting his papers, which contained 20,000 daily writings, to the Special Collection Department at Lewis and Clark College, where he once taught. So his writings and his collection of work is now housed there so that they can be wise stewards of that collection. I'm so excited to share William Stafford's work with you today. I think his work is incredibly accessible, and it's very thought-provoking, especially the poems where he is thinking about war and about his decisions thereabout. He feels very approachable to me as a poet, and his poetry is some that can provide comfort as well as make you think even after you finish the poem and after you close the book. He is definitely a poet that I would invite to have dinner with me, that conversation about, who are the three authors that you would invite to dinner, living or dead. He is definitely one that I would invite to dinner. I would love to kind of pick his brain apart. So today, let's get started. Like I said, I'm reading The Darkness Around Us is Deep by William Stafford, and I've chosen 4 poems today, and I hope that you will just take a second right now. Maybe you have this playing on your phone or on your computer and you're doing the dishes, or you are getting lunch ready, or you are doing something with your kids, to just take a second and stop and just listen to some poetry. The first poem that I'm reading is entitled Passing Remark. In scenery, I like flat country. In life, I don't like much to happen. In personalities, I like mild, colorless people. And in colors, I prefer gray and brown. My wife, a vivid girl from the mountains, says, "Then why did you choose me?" Mildly, I lower my brown eyes. There are so many things admirable people do not understand. The next poem I'm reading is entitled Turn Over Your Hand. Those lines on your palm, they can read for a hidden part of your life that only those links can say. Nobody's voice can find so tiny a message as comes across your hand. Forbidden to complain, you have tried to be like somebody else, and only this fine record you examine, sometimes like this, can remember where you were going before that long, silent evasion that your life became. The next one I have for you is entitled Ask Me. Sometime when the river is ice, ask me mistakes I have made. Ask me whether what I have done is my life. Others have come in their slow way into my thought, and some have tried to help or to hurt. Ask me what difference their strongest love or hate has made. I will listen to what you say. You and I can turn and look at the silent river and wait. We know the current is there, hidden, and there are comings and goings from miles away that hold the stillness exactly before us. What the river says, that is what I will say. And the last poem I'm reading is one of my very favorite poems in the whole wide world. So I'm really excited and honored to be sharing that with you today. It is a poem that I learned about 10 years ago, and a poem which has, in every apartment I've lived in every country I've lived in, this poem has always been tacked on my wall somewhere. And it just really speaks to me. So I hope that you also get something out of it. If you don't, that's okay. That's the beauty of poetry, much like art, that when we experience a poem or a piece of art at a certain time in our life, it might not mean something, but when we come back to it in a month, in a year, in 5 years, it might be ready to tell us something, and we might be ready to receive that message. So the poem that I have to share with you here is A Ritual to Read Each Other. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others may prevail in the world and follow the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal in the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade, holding each elephant's tail, but if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote important region in all who talk, that we should consider fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep. So those are the poems that I have to share with you today. I was reading from The Darkness Around Us is Deep by William Stafford. Thank you so much for sitting with me for these last few minutes, for taking time out of your day to experience the beauty and the heartbreak of poetry, and especially the poems of William Stafford. I am so thrilled and honored to share this moment with you. I hope that you'll be kind to yourself and kind to others today, and I look forward to sharing more poetry with you next week. Bye.